good afternoon, Facebook, depending on what part of the world you're in. It's Jerry coming to you from the Rythmia Life Advancement Center in Guanacaste, Costa Rica, and it's a beauty of a day. It's just beautiful. I can't tell you how beautiful Guanacaste is this time of year. It's gorgeous. Rythmia Life Advancement Center is a life advancement center that focuses on something called a soul reclamation or a soul merger. To date, we've had over 16,000 guests come here. 16,000. You got to get your hands around that. And 98.16% of them, so that's 981 out of every 1,000, reported a life-changing miracle during their stay. Better than that, 6 months later, at a 6-month survey, 90.22% say that the miracle that they got is still working in their life, and that this was the week that changed their life. You know, because of this kind of grassroots, you have these 16,000 people talking about the amazing time that they had. All people from all walks of life come here. So we have famous people, from athletes, business leaders, entertainers, musicians, actors and actresses, and the like. And then we have normal people just like you and me that come to this place, and it's amazing. On our board of directors, we have an amazing board of directors. We have Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, Michael Bernard Beckwith from the Agape Spiritual Center in Los Angeles, Martin Luther King's son, Martin, the activist, Frank Biden, the activist, Ron White, the comedian, Tony Coe, the Fortune 100 businesswoman. I know I'm leaving. Kelly Slater, the greatest surfer of all time. I mentioned Ron White, the comedian. Earl Koski, the businessman. Dr. Jeff McNary from here. Just an amazing group of people that are that. And how could we attract such people into these unpaid positions? Well, because they had the most life-changing week of their life here at Rythmia. And you can have it too, and I suggest that you do. This is success advice from the mother, number 7. And what this is it's a collection of things that I've learned in ceremony that have been outwardly pictured in my life. I'm an extremely lucky guy. I didn't graduate high school at a time when high school was super important. College was super important in the 80s. I didn't graduate, but I became a millionaire in my 20s, meaning I saved $1 million, had $1 million in my 20s. I became a multimillionaire in my 30s, took a company public, and in my last capital event, I sold a company that I started for a tick under $90 million that I owned 75% of. So yeah, I had this knack for being able to manifest earthly things. And I've had 340 plant medicine ceremonies. And in them, I was given a lot of insight into why what I was doing worked, and further insight about how to do it better. Now, what seems to be the most common progression of somebody through this Rythmia system is that after their week at Rythmia, they decide, the medicine usually shows them, that the greatest gift in life is becoming a beneficial presence on the planet. It's becoming a beneficial presence on the planet, moving off the liability side for the planet, meaning the consumption side, and moving into the asset side, which is the giving side. And it's the greatest experience of your life. And almost everybody, with very few exceptions, decides they want to be this beneficial presence after they've gone through this weekly program. And when you do that, it's kind of a lifelong commitment to the light to become a beneficial presence. Now, there is an energetic equivalent or reward for becoming a beneficial presence, and usually that is a good feeling because you're doing well for others, and there's a monetary equivalent of a gift back from the universe in the terms of monetary enrichment, which is in our world is money. And that is just a byproduct of becoming a master at a particular thing. Now, this endeavor is a minimum of 10 years. I've seen it take 7 years. I've also seen it take 20 to become a true beneficial presence and to move out of friction into flow. So when you introduce a new system into the universe, it's held back by friction. And your constant support and push into that friction ultimately at some point gets accepted and blessed by the universe and turned into flow. That's this cycle of what happens. Now, one of the things that people talk about a lot is trusting intuition. And intuition is a complicated structure. It's a complicated mechanism. Intuition is. And it's formed by a bunch of different things. So I'm very, very, very cautious when I tell someone to trust their intuition. I tell Warren Buffett, trust his intuition because it's proven so good, right? So all of us have this intuition mechanism, and all of our intuitions produce a different result. A lot of the people talking about trusting their intuition are on their 40th failed business and have a hard life and are struggling with addiction and da-da-da-da. That particular person, I would tell to be cautious of your intuition. Here's what I can tell you. If you trust your intuition completely and act upon it, you will receive more of what you already have. So if your intuition has put you in a place that's compromised, it will continue to do that. Now, if you take a look at how intuition is formed in our formative years. It is. It's formed in our formative years, and it continues to form through our teens, but mainly in our formative years. So if we were brought up in a fear-based environment, the overriding thing of our intuition, it has different structures. It has fear, it has ego, it has heart, it has spirit, it has collective consciousness, it is our subconscious. All of these things are gut, which form this thing called intuition. Now, if we were brought up in a dangerous environment, the intuition will always tell us to do the safest thing. Just how it works. We will be programmed because fear is an overriding emotion. We will be programmed to be fearful. The love of our life, potential love of our life, walks by fear. Great business opportunity, fear. That's the thing. Now, fear, you would think fear keeps us from what fear does. It keeps us in a steady state of mediocrity. That's really what fear does. It protects our lives, right? Because, I sometimes at night, I'm walking around here in the dark, and I'm very aware that there are snakes in Costa Rica. That's a good fear. So I use my light to make sure that I'm not going to step on a snake, right? But in this thing, so when we tune into our intuition, we have to be able to look at our past in honesty, in order to judge and recalibrate our intuition. So many times our subconscious, our spirit, is using intuition to force us into a state of lesson in order to elevate our soul, right? So a lot of times intuition is putting us in a love relationship, that because we are not willing to learn the lesson from the last X amount of love relationships. So your awareness around that has to be heightened, because you want to learn that lesson so that your intuition doesn't drive you into the next thing. A lot of people, especially business people, entrepreneurs, have this thing where they keep losing in business because they won't learn a primary lesson. So their gut tells them, their intuition tells them, oh, get in this business and it fails again. And get in this business and fails again. So what is really needed is analysis of the lessons I'm not learning, so that this collective thing called intuition so I can learn that lesson, so I can be driven in a new direction to success, right? I would love to have, I'm friends with people that did really good. There's some billionaires. I would love to have their business intuition. I would love to have it. So I'm constantly reevaluating my own business intuition so that I don't make the same mistakes again and again and again and again. So my business intuition has been very lucky my whole life. And so I try to stick to those things. So when you have this, so a lot of us who have had, let's say, sexual, short-term relationships. Well, if you ask those people who fell into those relationships, if their intuition told them to do it, they would always say yes. That's this feeling of romance. I'm going to ask you to temper your intuition and to ask your intuition through analyzation. The greatest thing that the medicine told me is to distrust my intuition, to distrust it, to see what those similarities in this piece of intuition have had with my failures in the past, and use it as a compass to heal the part of me that's being driven into this part of my life that's not successful again and again and again. There's the thing. And then once it's honed, to trust it completely. Once you've seen that I've trusted this part of my intuition 5 times and I've had 4 great results, now all of a sudden I can start trusting that part of my intuition. Until I do, your intuition should red flag you that, wait a second, I've had, this thing that recurs in my life. That's a horrible thing. Let's say I have a recurring fight with a family member, and my intuition is to do something with that family member. I have to peel that apart and say, well, wait a second. This is kind of the same thing I've been doing with this family member time and time again, and has had the same result. What's underneath that for me, not for them, that my intuition is wanting me to heal so that can evolve? Same thing in business. Same thing in business. And a lot of us have this start intuition. So what is the start intuition? The start intuition usually comes out of ego and heart, that says, I want to start something new. I want a new relationship. I want a new job. I want a new career. I want a new skill. I want a new. And that a lot of times is an egocentric thing, because what we learn from the medicine is most of the pearls that are given in this life do not come out of the new thing. They come out of the old thing that you don't give up on. It's such a fact. So these businesses, I have 2 friends. I have maybe 4 friends that grew companies that worth more than $1 billion. And a lot of what they have in common in those endeavors was not this experience of success. Like if they take a look at a 30-year span, it wasn't a home run at year 3. It was an average business at year 10. And it started getting good when it started getting super hard. Then it would start to yield fruit. And by the time it turned into flow, they're $1 billion businesses, right? So, and there were many other opportunities that were omnipresent with these people before that they said no to. So there's always going to be a prettier option, whether it's in life or romance or family or whatever. There's going to be many prettier options, or that look prettier on the surface. That job looks easier. It looks like I'm going to make more money, but I'm going to stick with this because my karmic lesson, my gift is in this thing. And what you find with the people who win is they don't quit. They might get fired. The business might fail, but they do not quit. The relationship gets rocky. If you take a look at the couples that have the best relationships, and I mean the best, not new ones. I'm not talking about 3 months, 6 months, 2 year, 3 year. I'm talking about the 20, 30, 40-year relationships. And you analyze them and you sit down and talk with these people. They each wanted to quit 50 times, but they didn't. They didn't, because all the pearls were in there. And for some reason, they recognized that those pearls were in there. So when you deconstruct your intuitive results, they can lead you to, they're a ceremony. They are a ceremony if you add them together. Now, as people, we have a tendency to only remember the last lesson. And it's a terrible tendency because only the last thing is present in our mind. And this is where mindfulness works, is that we have to go backwards and look and see our pattern and see what part intuition played in that pattern. And I'm going to say it's 90% for most people. and we're going to be then confronted with two choices. Do I override my intuition to get a result that I want? Not a desire, an intuition. My desire might be for rest, right? That's my desire. I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. That's a desire. My intuition might be saying, give up on this project and start this project. So do we override our intuition to give up on that project and to stick with it? Or do we learn the lesson through self-analyzation, plant medicine, a week at Rythmia, where we get to see why our intuition was driving us into these things, to heal that part of us and to adjust that knob. There's the art. And I want to tell you, if you do life right, by the time you're in your 30s, you should start to see good results from your intuition. If you're in your 50s and 60s and you're still having bad results from your own intuition, you need some focus on this. You need some focus on it. So when people tell you to trust your intuition, usually like when Warren Buffett says, trust your intuition, I believe he's saying that from the most sincere part of him, because his intuition has been great. When Tom Cruise says to trust your intuition, it's because his has done pretty well. When Elon Musk says to trust your intuition, these are all self-evident things, right? But when you have some person on YouTube or the internet that hasn't had financial success and hasn't had relationship success or family success or community success, and he tells you or she tells you to trust your intuition, it's coming from a place that's unauthentic. It's not authentic because that person's intuition has not worked for them, right? So really, 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 the thing that I can tell you to do And this was not an advertisement for Rythmia, but it works out that what I'm asking you to do is come to this place or a place just like it, and have this experience so that the knobs can be adjusted. So when you become you make the decision to become a beneficial presence, that the journey is shorter than so you don't have to go the long way home, and you can start trusting your intuition, right? So that's the first part of this. The second part of it is that intuition, for a lot of us, there's the part of it that's intuitive, and then there's the part of it that is pre-thought. So I myself spend a lot of time in thought over whatever business I'm in or whatever situation I'm in, so that if I know exactly where I want to go, I use 50% intuition and 50% thought, because I've thought about it so much that I know whether that takes me closer or further away from my target. I will know in a second. Not in a second, but in 5 minutes, because I've already thought about it 100 times. So when someone comes to me and says, hey, let's do this or let's do that, I say no. And 90% of the time I do say no, because there's only a certain limited amount of things that are going to drive you closer to where you want to go. So it's the combination of both. And I leave you with that this week. I want to ask you and invite you, if you haven't had the Rythmia experience, please come here. Please come here. I get people from all over the world in all walks of life that come here, and they come back once a year or once every couple of years. And when I see them and they tell me the improvement that has happened in their life, I can't tell you. If you were my family, I'd be demanding that you come here. Please get yourself here. It makes a difference, and it's the beginning of a completely different way of life. So until next week, God bless you, God keep you, God hold you, and use some of these thoughts and practices to help you really analyze your gut. And if you're smart, you will probably realize that your gut sends you mixed signals and that you need to get someplace and to get them fine-tuned. I got 2 books out. I can't say this, I don't think, because it'll block me, but Crap the Moon Says, and Truthonomics. This is a manifestation book. This is a book about how Rythmia happened. Both of them are interesting reads, I believe. God bless you, God keep you, God hold you, and we'll see you next